Commissioners, are we ready to start the meeting? Things we need to do this evening, as we only have 3 commissioners present this evening, the first action we need to take is to select someone to serve as the chairman for the meeting. So it would be appropriate for one of the commissioners to make a motion. We'll need a motion in a second, and then we can get started with the meeting as soon as we have a chair.
All right, I'll make a motion. And I go back and forth whether it should be for the year or for just tonight. And so I've kind of been thinking about it, and I still haven't decided. But I'll make a motion that Mr. Commissioner Jerry Verplank be the chairman for tonight or the rest of the year. Okay, I'll go with tonight.
I'll second.
Thank you. Chairman for the evening, Verplank.
Okay, I guess that's, with that, if you would pass me the gavel, please. Thank you. I will officially open the regular scheduled meeting of the Lake Forest Planning Commission for June the 27th, 2013. And the record reflect that Chairman Hughes and Vice Chairman Zachmeister are absent. And with that, if I could ask Commissioner Brower to please lead us in the pledge. Okay, thank you. This is a time when we would take public comments from the public on any item that is not scheduled on tonight's agenda. If there's anyone in the audience that has something they'd like to address the Commission about on an item that is not scheduled for tonight, this would be your opportunity to do so. I see none jumping up, so I guess we can move on to presentation items, which will take us to our consent calendar. First item is the approval of the minutes from the adjourned regular Planning Commission meeting of June the 6th.
Can I bring a motion to the consent calendar as a block item?
Works for me.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. All right, here we go to public hearing items.
Okay, before we get started on this, I just wanted to let the audience know, item number 8, the TrueMark application in the Foothill Ranch Auto Center, the recommendation is that that project be continued. Actually, the project is required to be continued. We need to renotice that project. So if anyone is here to speak on that item, that will be continued for 2 weeks or until July 11th. Okay, with that, then our public hearings start with item number 4, interim outdoor storage uses at the El Toro Materials site.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Staff's recommendation tonight is to remove this item from the Planning Commission's calendar. We are still working with the applicant regarding the appropriate conditions of approval on those interim uses, and to avoid more continuances, we're just going to take it off the calendar.
Okay, thank you. In a motion?
If I could ask a question, I'm just concerned. I mean, certainly I understand the applicant's asking to pull it, and staff supports that, and there's no reason to fight that point. But I'm just concerned that are the current uses in compliance? In other words, I mean, it's not exactly the most appealing site at the moment. That's, I think, why we were working on this in the first place. And I just don't want to kick it off of our calendar if we're just kicking it over to code enforcement.
Staff is currently working with the property owner and the tenant to ensure that all of the uses are brought into compliance. This has been an ongoing issue for a matter of months now. We're getting close to that point where the uses are in compliance. I can't speak definitively as to where they all are at this point, but we are getting close to the point where they will be in compliance.
Fair enough. I appreciate that. Like I said, I just didn't want to be kicking it to the curb if it's all I'm doing is passing the buck to somebody else. So I will move that we approve the removal from the calendar.
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on, item number 5.
Item 5, use permit for a contractor storage yard, and Jennifer Mansour has a staff report this evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. This project's a little unique, so I'm going to give a little bit of the background of this project. For years, Farino Construction Services has operated a concrete batch plant at the property on the corner of Olive Avenue and Front Street. The city's position has been that this batch plant is not permitted pursuant to the city zoning code and was a source of other public nuisance violations. In 2011, the city commenced a nuisance abatement action against the business. The city and Farino Construction Services negotiated a settlement agreement which allows the concrete batch plant to operate for an additional 15 years if they met specific conditions. These conditions included making some site improvements, including landscaping and a new fence, which was completed a few months ago, operating between 6 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and compliance with the city's noise ordinance. The conditions also required the applicant to submit a use permit application for a contractor storage yard to be processed by the city in a timely manner. This use permit would run with the land and could be used by the applicant within or after the 15-year period. The settlement agreement also was amended to require that the use permit include a condition of approval in which the applicant must submit a lot line adjustment. Although the terms of this settlement agreement are not under the purview of the Planning Commission, the use permit shall be subject to the normal Planning Commission review. The new use permit is for a contractor storage yard with a new building. All of the existing concrete batch plant equipment at the site currently will be removed. Farino Construction Services will provide general contractor services, engineering services, and pumping. The concrete used for the business's concrete pumping services will be located off-site, where some of the equipment can be located on-site. The new two-story building is 2,300 square feet and will have storage on the first floor and offices on the second floor. The building is stucco and includes stacked stone base around the building and stacked stone columns. The architecture also includes wood fascia band above the entries to the building and decorative cornices. The site is proposed to be modified to add a driveway on Olive Avenue, which will connect the existing driveway with the new drive aisle. On either side of the drive aisle are 2 open parking areas that are proposed to be used for the parking of the construction truck fleet and large construction equipment. Additional landscaping is proposed around the boundary of the site. The project, as conditioned, is in compliance with the city's zoning code requirements. This project is subject to our light industrial design guidelines that were adopted in 2010, and this is the first building in this area that the Planning Commission has seen using these guidelines. Overall, the project is in compliance with the spirit and intent of these design guidelines, and that the stored equipment and vehicles will be screened by the existing wall and landscaping, and the building facades facing the streets are well articulated with the numerous architectural features. Staff is recommending approval of this use permit as conditioned. The applicant is in the audience tonight, and I can answer any questions you might have on this project. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? Okay. Jennifer, I just have, I think it's a typo error on the resolution itself. It has December 31st, 2013 as a date, and I think that might be 2012, first paragraph.
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you. All right. Okay. We have one request to speak, Richard Fiorino. If you can go ahead and approach the podium and restate your name and city of residence for us.
Richard A. Farino. I reside in Lake Forest, City of Lake Forest. And I am for the project. And I'm here to answer anything you might have to, any questions you have.
Great. We appreciate it. Thank you for coming. All right. Is there anyone else that wants to address the commission on this matter? All right. Seeing none, let's bring it back up here. Gentlemen, comments?
It's my understanding that, and as is stated in the staff report, this, we've gotten to today is kind of the end result of litigation, and I know that our city staff, especially our city attorney and his staff, know what they're doing, so I don't see anything from a planning perspective that raises any hairs for me, and the rest, we kind of have our hands tied on agreement, and I'm ready to vote if everybody else is.
Comments?
I just, I guess my somewhat of a concern is the times of operation. I'd like to, well, I don't know what the ramifications are down the road here, but, I see that there's residents right across the train tracks. I don't know, the 5 p.m., is that part of the settlement and everything? Okay. So I was just going to say if they wanted to operate a little later in the day, I don't think that would bother residents that much. I didn't know if 6 a.m. was good for everybody too, but if that's where we're going, I just I think if that's what everyone says, but I just was going to say, I don't know if residents would be open to going a little later in the evening and maybe trading a little bit for some in the morning, but I don't know if that would impact your operations at all. Okay, so I'll just go with the flow on this one.
Okay. Question for Mal. The lot line adjustment is part of this settlement agreement already. We don't need a separate motion on this. We're only looking at the use permit. Is that my correct understanding?
It's a separate action, but we can act on everything all at
one time.
Yes. And then just one further issue. We didn't open the public hearing technically, so let's just make sure we open that before we close it.
I stand corrected. We have now officially opened the public hearing. Thank you. Okay. All right, so then basically a motion would include the lot line adjustment, and that can all be done at one time. Okay. Anybody wants to take a shot? No.
Sure. Keep things flowing. I move to approve as recommended on, make sure I get the number right here. Use permit 12-12-3039, including whatever lot line adjustments need to be included.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right. Moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Carries. Thank you very much.
Our next item, number 6, is a plan sign program for Saddleback Church, and Ron Santos has a staff report this evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. This item is a request for a 50-square-foot monument sign at the northeast corner of the Portola Parkway-Saddleback Parkway intersection, which is one of 3 entrances to the Saddleback Church campus. The sign is part of a larger entry feature that consists of a pair of tiered retaining walls, landscaping, and accent lighting, in a design and configuration that closely resembles previously approved entry monument signs located across Saddleback Parkway at this same intersection, and at the 2 other entrances to the church campus. The sign, which consists of raised letters against a plaster finished background, would be externally illuminated and centered near the top of the upper retaining wall. The proposed retaining walls have a combined height of 13 feet and would be set back 10 and 21 feet respectively from the property line, in accordance with the city's retaining wall design guidelines. Special accent landscaping is proposed in front of and behind each wall, as also recommended by the guidelines. Approval of this plan sign program would effectively amend a plan sign program approved by the city in 2006, which allowed for the existing monument signs I previously mentioned and which are pictured and described in the staff report. Staff is recommending approval of the project as proposed based on the draft resolution, that is the findings in the draft resolution, and this concludes staff's presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions the Commission may have.
questions for staff? Okay, you should get off easy tonight. All right, let's go ahead and make sure we have the public hearing opened on this matter. We have two requests to speak tonight. We have, let's start with Ryan Keith. And we just ask you to repeat your name and state your city of residence for us for the record.
All right. Good evening, Ryan Keith. I reside in Mission Viejo, but I work with Saddleback Church, Director of Property Development. And I want to say how pleased we were to work with Ron and his work on this and his diligent research on this. And we're excited to get this done. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have one other speaker, looks like William Rabin. Hope I've got that correct. Again?
Rabin.
Rabin? All right. We'll let you state your name and give us your city of residence.
My name is William Rabin. The city of residence is Aliso Viejo, and I'm representing Rabin Landscape Architects for the project. And certainly we are in support of it and happy to be pleased to be involved with it.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for being here.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else want to address the commission on this matter? All right. Well, gentlemen, bring it back up here.
I'll go ahead and jump in. I guess my only real question, I don't have a problem with the sign in itself. It appears to be consistent with the signs that are already there. I guess my only real question, and maybe Mr. Keith can answer this, maybe he can't, is why all but this corner at one shot and then come back later for one last sign? With the consistency of the signs, why not do them all at the same time? My only question. It's logistic more than anything. I'm just curious.
Originally, when we did the other corner, we did not have that property. It was 40 acres from Saddleback Parkway down to Port, and we didn't own that property at the time. And so now we have the resources. We're coming back and taking care of that.
Fair enough. It makes sense. I just couldn't figure out why you did one side or the other, so that explains it. Thank you.
This is for you, Mal. I don't think there's a conflict here, but I am a member of Saddleback Church and have been for an extended period of time. I don't think any decision that I would reach on this has any merit, but if you advise me differently, I will step aside.
No, it's a good question, and thank you for daylighting that. Conflict laws pertain to sources of income. Generally, parishioners give income to churches and don't receive income from churches, so I'm assuming that's the case with you, as is with most of us, so you're not disqualified and can certainly vote.
Thank you.
I did a little research on this item, and actually, I was just going to mention. I didn't mention anything on the previous the Olive Avenue project. I don't drive by that very often to comment, but I do drive by the monument signs, the existing monument signs, and I think they are incredible. I think they're well landscaped. I'm fully in support of this project. In fact, if you wanted to make the Saddleback Church larger, I'd be open to that too, or making I don't know what my other fellow planning commissioners would feel about that. But in any case, I think this is a great thing, and I noticed some news recently about your pastor, Rick Warren, and I'm sure probably some of the other commissioners might express condolences to him, and I think that's an important thing. We're all in the community here, and if there was any way we could maybe even recommend to council or something like that to send some kind of condolence from the city, I think that would also be a good neighborly thing to do for such a what seems like a fine and outstanding organization that helps our community. So that's pretty much where I was on this item.
I think this just finishes the project and brings the continuity that's there, so I have no objections to it at all, in spite of the fact that I'm a member there. I would still find it to be an acceptable proposition. Okay. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I will recommend adopting staff's recommendation for the resolution approving Plan Sign Program 5-13-3326 and all the verbiage here in the staff report.
And close public hearing.
And close the public hearing.
I'll second that. All right. Motion, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Moving on, we have item 7, site development permit for planning area 1D of the Shay Ranch, and Ron sent staff report for this item.
Thank you. Commissioners, is currently processing applications for the development of Phase 1 of the Shay Ranch project. At your last meeting, the Commission approved the subdivision and development of 3 projects, a 6-pack design, a townhome project, and a detached alley product. The project that's before you this evening is a standard single-family detached development on lots which were previously approved by the city. The area plan allows for this type of project to be approved administratively, as all development standards, landscaping, and architectural guidelines were previously approved. Staff agendized this project so that the Commission could be made aware of the staff review that occurs in conjunction with these types of applications and the general quality of the homes that we can expect to see developed in these neighborhoods. The project details are summarized in the project information table, which is on page 4 of the staff report. Additionally, attachments 3 and 4 of the staff report demonstrate the project's compliance with the applicable development and design guidelines. The applicant anticipates starting construction in December or January of next year for this project. Staff is recommending approval of the project based on the findings in the draft resolution and subject to the recommended conditions of approval. As a reminder, the project is also subject to all of the conditions of approval that were previously adopted in conjunction with the approval of the master tentative tract map and the area plan. This concludes staff's presentation on this item, and I'd be happy to answer any questions the Commission may have. The applicant is also in attendance this evening.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Any questions for Ron? Okay, great. Moving on then, now that we have the public hearing officially opened again, we have one request to speak, Brooke Doy.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Brooke Doy, and with Shay Homes, and I'm here again to really just see if you guys have any questions on our proposed product.
Okay, and your city residence, please?
Mesa.
Thank you. Okay, so you're just here to, if we have questions. Great, well, we appreciate you being here. Thanks. All right. Would anyone else like to address the Commission on this topic? Okay. I'll bring it back up to the 3 of us.
All right, I guess I'll start. I really like how these houses look. I think they're well done. In the past, there was a question I think Chairman Hughes and I had about some of the layout. It might not have been this exact Shay developer, but in some of the units around there and the walls and the kind of plain exterior. So I don't have any of those concerns on. Look through the packet, it looks straightforward. I'm in full support of this item.
Any comments from Commissioner Brower? Okay. Well, I too am very much in favor of this. One of the things that really stands out, and I appreciate, this is one of the things that, because we've been involved from the get-go with the developers on this, is we shouldn't run into parking issues. And parking issues is one of the things that we have been harping on just forever and ever. And as I look at this, what's proposed and what's laid out there, the required, and this is just for the general audience as well, that what's required for a project like this is 187 parking spaces, and that means your garage spaces and so forth. With their garage, with their driveways, with their on-street parking, They're at 430 spaces, and that just means a lot when we're trying to keep cars off the street as much as possible and utilize correct parking. So this is really, I'm pleased, very pleased to see this, and I know we're going to get this kind of product out of the new construction that's coming into us in the OSA area, so appreciate it. If there's no other comments, I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Yeah, can I just make, I was going to actually say that too, but you beat me to it. It's 2.3 times the required parking, so that's quite an accomplishment.
Okay, well, with that, then I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and prove that we and move that we approve site development permit 2-13-3117.
Second.
Okay, moved and second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
That brings us to item 8, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, Commissioners, this item must be continued to July 11th. That's going to allow us to more fully describe the item on the agenda. We will be republishing the notice in the newspaper and once again sending out notices to all surrounding property owners within 300 feet of the property.
Just, I guess to get it on the record, the communication from staff to us and to share with those who are here, it would appear that this was only in the agenda itself that the lack of detail was inadvertently left out. The published records to the public, to all the other public venues, the newspapers, et cetera, had all the details. I just wanted to kind of put it out there that we are covering our bases, but at the same time, it wasn't like big gaping holes either. So I just wanted to commend the staff for catching it and dealing with it and doing so in a very prompt and professional manner.
Actually, we don't need to continue it because we will renotice it. Mal has corrected me on that, so all the notices will once again go out. They'll all say July 11th, so no further actions required this evening. And moving on, that would bring us to agenda item 9, a use permit for a new U-Haul self-storage building with equipment and truck rental. Jennifer Mansour has a staff report this evening.
This next item is a use permit for U-Haul, which includes the construction of 2 new buildings at the corner of Geronimo Road and Orange Avenue. This project has a lot of components, so I'll try to go through them quickly. The main building is is proposed to be a little more than 115,000 square feet, and is proposed to have a total of 1,296 storage units on 4 levels. The building facades facing the public streets are about 200 feet long and include architectural elements such as stacked stone features that protrude a foot from the facade, metal frames with headers, metal screens with vines, and a 5-foot roofed pop-out facing Geronimo Road. The building also includes a 47-foot tall tower element on the east corner of the building with stacked stone columns, windows, and a metal green gabled roof. The other corners of the buildings have shorter tower elements with stacked stone bases and cornices. This building has a showroom on the first floor where customers can rent a storage unit, rent U-Haul trucks or trailers, purchase a truck hitch with installation, which is conducted in the delivery and service bay on the first floor, or they can purchase accessory retail items. A smaller building is proposed at the corner of this site. This building is proposed to be used for U-Haul's U-Box project, which is a large portable storage container. The U-Boxes are loaded into the building via a loading dock and are moved around the building with a forklift. U-Boxes can only be accessed by appointment, and they're infrequently accessed by customers. The business will also include the rental of U-Haul trucks and trailers, which is what U-Haul is known for. The rental trucks are proposed to be stored in the display parking area at the front of the site and in some of the oversized parking stalls at the rear of the site. Vehicles that have been reserved for the day or vehicles that are returned to the site will be located in the equipment shunting area, which is an area with 5 rows of stacked parking. The site includes a total of 35 parking stalls and includes a variety of different sizes that range from a standard stall to a maximum of 12 feet wide by 30 feet in length. New boundary landscaping is also proposed with this project. The project is in compliance with the city zoning code requirements, including the setback, height, and landscaping requirements. This project is the second project you'll be reviewing with the new light industrial design guidelines. The design guidelines include specific guidelines for self-storage facilities that generally state that the facility should be consistent with the surrounding area in scale and appearance through the use of building size transitions and architecture, and states that the administrative office should be located in a building element that is human scale. Based on staff's review of the architecture of the project, the building is not in compliance with these design guidelines. The surrounding buildings on either side of the project are much smaller in scale than the proposed building. The proposed building facades along both streets are approximately 200 feet long and do not have any varying setbacks from the streets. Similarly, the height variation of the building only occurs at the four corners of the building and not in the long expanses in the middle of the building. This lack of horizontal and vertical articulation on the building makes a building of this size appear a little boxy. However, there are architectural design options that could provide building size transitions and building articulation that can help mask the size of the building. Staff recommends the Planning Commission direct the applicant to redesign the self-storage building in accordance with the guideline by incorporating a number of design principles that were listed in the staff report, which include providing a one-story roofed element of the building and providing varying building setbacks and heights. However, staff has also included some different options for the Planning Commission. Included with your report was a draft resolution of approval for this project that included condition number 3 that requires the applicant to provide these changes subject to staff's review. Or, if the Planning Commission wants to approve the project as proposed and feels that the project is consistent with the spirit and intent of the design guidelines, this resolution may be used with the elimination of condition number 3. That concludes my presentation. The applicant is in the audience tonight and has a short presentation prepared, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Any questions for staff this time? Not at this time? Okay, great. All right. Well, then open the public hearing. We've got someone that wanted to speak. Let's go ahead and start with Robin Benning. If you would please restate your name and give us your city of residence, that would be great.
Good evening, Honorable Chairman and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Robin Benning with Americo Real Estate U-Haul Incorporated in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm going to try to abbreviate my 3 pages down because we're doing such a great job of going quickly. But there are a couple of points that I think that are really key. U-Haul has made a pretty significant investment in your community. We believe that the need and a demand for our services, both the truck rental and the storage and the moving supplies, and that's why we're here today. Obviously, Lake Forest is a great community. You have all the things going on that make people want to move to your community, and we're here to serve those people. We're proposing to develop the Living Green Nursery parcel at the southeast corner of Geronimo and Orange in the light industrial area as part of our proposal to expand our service to your community. Over the past 10 months or so, U-Haul has worked diligently with your excellent staff. I want to especially recognize the help that is provided to us to develop an attractive, efficient, and economically viable building. However, it's true we may not exactly meet the criteria, and I'd like to expound on that point. While the light industrial area design guidelines do have a lot of shoulds, it very specifically says in the beginning of the manual that these are shoulds. Should does not mean must, and there's a big difference there. Our building will be partially below grade to help to reduce the height. Our building's driveways will be landscaped, and the pavement adjacent to the street will receive decorative pavers to try to reduce the impact. The primary building is located nearest to the intersection to reduce dominance of parking to hide the service areas and to increase the human scale. Our project's completely hidden from the El Toro Bridge overpass, which is the articles that was really critical in the design guideline. The loading areas, site utilities, and service areas have all been located at the rear of the property in order to screen them from view. Pedestrian connections are accentuated utilizing the new landscaping and the new driveways. We've reduced the number of driveways. We're removing the gates, fencing on the property that are currently there, all in an effort to enhance the streetscape that your community has worked so diligently to create. In fact, that streetscape is really nice. Our building design does include a traditional three-part elevation with a base, midsection, and top. We've made significant additions to the articulation and to the architectural detailing since our initial proposal came forward. We've worked with staff to accentuate a craftsman's style. You can see on the elevations we have battered walls, 412 pitched roofs. We've added extensive areas of natural materials such as stone. We've got beams and lattice and plant materials. We've used earth tone colors and avoided franchise color schemes, unpainted concrete, and corrugated metal wall paneling, all things that are suggested in the design ordinance. We recognize staff's regarding the design of our proposed facility, and we believe we have made significant concessions regarding the siting and the architectural design of our proposed facility. In comparison to some of our neighbors, we believe that we will be a clean, well-maintained and facility that will clean up the area that is run down currently. We take ownership of our surroundings and reduce negative behavior. Could you go to the next slide, please? In comparison to what's there, liquor stores, retail businesses, a taxi service, construction materials vendors, and even outdoor storages, which are very close to, if not as tall as our building, we believe that our building is more attractive. In conclusion, next slide, please. U-Haul has made a significant capital investment in the city of Lake and Forest. We intend to spend close to $10 million on this project. We'll contribute to the economy of Lake Forest via employment, property taxes, and sales tax revenue to the city. We ask that the Planning Commission find that this proposal results, and I'm quoting from the city code, results in an equivalent or better project in terms of adverse impacts and public benefits to the immediate and surrounding community. We feel strongly that this proposal meets the criteria as set forth under California state law and City of Lake Forest Municipal Code for approval. We therefore respectfully request that the Planning Commission of the City of Lake Forest move, as stated in the Planning Commission Agenda Report, page 16 of 17, summary, option number 3, to adopt the draft resolution with the elimination of conditions number 3, which would approve this project with no changes to the architecture of the building. Thank you very much for your time. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Question, applicant?
Just want to understand better. I don't know if the audience had. I guess that's kind of up there. Maybe you could explain to maybe staff. Maybe it should be staff explaining what the differences are specifically that you're recommending, just so that we can kind of square away and everyone understand what those are.
Sure. We have a list of different recommendations that we are asking for. The first one was to provide a one-story roofed element of the building. So a one-story element on the building, most likely where the showroom is located. So that will give a little bit of a size transition, so it starts lower and comes up higher. We're also asking for the building entry, which would be that one-story element, to be framed with architectural embellishment for articulation to easily recognize that it's the entry of the building. We are also asking for a varied setback from the street, a minimum depth of 10 feet for a substantial expanse of the building. The building facing Geronimo has basically one area of articulation that's about 5 feet for a small portion of the building. So what we're looking for is a setback, a portion of the building to be set back a little bit, maybe even have some additional parking stalls to allow for a little bit of articulation along Geronimo, and the same thing along Orange Avenue.
So can I go back to the very first? So you're saying like at this corner right to be one story to
Right.
show that to be the entrance is in essence what you're saying.
Correct, and and what the design guidelines specifically
Okay.
include. Also, we're asking for a varied roof line in the center of the building, so just something in the middle of the building. We don't have specifics in here. We give them a lot of, these are conceptual ideas so that they can play with them and kind of come up with something that would look nice. We are also asking for the elimination of the forest green metal frame shutters and instead having either the faux windows that are used on a lot of the self-storage facilities or windows if it's acceptable.
In this area?
Yeah, in the center area of the buildings.
Okay. Right here.
Right, correct. We are also asking for the proposed green screens, which are for the vines, the trellises for the vines. They're showing them as green metal screens, and so we're asking for a simulated wood trellis or an actual wood trellis, but a simulated wood trellis would also work, just to keep them with the colors of the building and the earth tones that are recommended by the design guidelines. We're asking for the elimination of the gray color on the building because it doesn't match the earth tone colors of the browns and the tans that are used on the building. And the last one is just there's a few man doors on the building that aren't painted to match the adjacent walls. We're asking to make sure that the man doors match the building.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you for coming before us. I think this is a site that needs a lot of help. So I'm sure we'll discuss things further. But again, thank you for coming before us.
May I respond to the questions? So I just looked back at the president of the company who's sitting behind me, and we're willing to stipulate to all those conditions with the exception of the one story. I'd use the example of a castle. If you come to the front gate of a castle, it's a tower that usually the entry needs dominance and needs strength and some height. And so if you were we would stipulate all the conditions except the condition for the one-story showroom, we would be ready to make that we would be happy with that right now, but we're asking otherwise. We believe that you have the authority to make a decision other than what staff is requesting, and we're asking you to use that designated authority to say, we've done enough, this is going to be a building, it's going to serve the community. It may not be perfect, but we believe we're very close. Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, I have one more question. So just to help me visualize, so we're standing now on the corner of Geronimo and it's Orange. And so behind us would be yes, I was going to say on staff, the staff reports, page 345. I see there were a bunch of people in that top left picture posing for us. In any case, so that would be immediately behind you. So this bay that the staff report talks about too, that I think that's what it's called, some kind of the bay. No tandem parking. I'm not necessarily against tandem parking, but I'll go along with
the display parking area.
Yeah, the display parking. So is immediately right in that gray
The display area is this area where we normally would line up a certain number of pieces of equipment that are available for rental. That's how, we don't have television advertising. Our building and our trucks are advertising. That's how our customers find us. So it's really critical that we be able to place a few trucks in front of the building. We appreciate that staff did not stipulate a number of pieces of equipment. Rather, they said dress this area up with more landscaping, with an improved pavement design, permeable pavers that give a look of more cobblestone instead of asphalt. And that's how we've addressed that.
Okay, thank you.
If you could define for us, what does few mean to you?
I'm sorry, can you be more specific?
When you said a few pieces of equipment or trucks in that display area, would you define few?
Generally speaking, if we were to stripe that area, there would be it would be 12-foot wide spaces, which is wider than a normal parking space. And the reason we do that is we want our customers to be able to walk around the equipment and see, can we fit the number of things that we have in the equipment. If my memory serves me correctly, we had like 14 pieces of equipment on the front. Now, those pieces of equipment would range from our very large trucks, which are 26 feet long, to the very small car tow dollies. So 14 pieces of equipment across the entire... Can you go back to the site plan, please? So we're talking about 14 pieces of equipment in this length, from here through the paved area and up here at the top of the paved area.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Yes. Might as well stay on that topic first, and then I'll go back to what I was going to ask. When we're talking about displaying, I'm picturing the like when you drive past Santa Maria Ford, for example, from the road, there's several cars that they're trying to sell that are out amongst the landscaping, done in a way to showcase the vehicle, make everything look pretty, as opposed to your fleet being lined up across the front. Is that correct?
In this presentation, I apologize, I don't have the landscaping site plan. I can't see it. But if you can imagine this area above the checkerboard area, the checkerboard represents the pavement or the pavers. The white area above that is the landscape area, which includes some of the landscaping and the sidewalk and all that. What we like to do is we call it the 2 to 14 window. We lushly landscape up to 2 feet off the ground, and we lushly landscape with trees from 14 feet up. But we want to have that opening so that as your public safety officers drive by, they can see what's going on the property, so that if a person's driving by, they can see the trucks and they can remember that that's where they saw a truck for rent and come back. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
I mainly, like I said, I guess I was trying to make an analogy, to more of the dealership display of cars as opposed to, I just want to make sure that we're not opening the door basically to storage of trucks. In other words, we're not going to drive past there on the way to taking my son to school and see 40 trucks lined up because, that's where you're storing them now because we paved that area. Based on my conversation with you previously on the phone and from what you said, it didn't sound like that was, I kind of wanted to make it official that I was right with that understanding. So, and secondary, if we go back to the conditions of approval, specifically those under number 3, I wanted to clarify what I heard from you as far as your offer to stipulate as opposed in comparison to what Jennifer had kind of described as what we're looking for staff-wise. The building entry being a one-story is 3A. And I guess maybe this is a Jennifer question, sure, but when we talk about a one-story roofed element of the building, we talking like fully enclosed roofed element, or are we talking, if architecturally with the articulations, they brought what appears to be a very small awning out to a more significant depth and put some columns on either side to make it more prominent? I'm just having a hard time visualizing what exactly we're arguing in that corner.
The intention was an enclosed roofed portion of the building. However, as a planning commission, you can change that.
And then secondarily on that same topic, I'm not finding which letter under 3 it is at the moment, but I guess it's 3C, the question regarding the setback. When I'm looking at the renderings, it's hard to see, because in the renderings you can't see the actual street as well. And I'm curious, as it sits now, it's drawn and proposed, what percentage of the building are we talking about being that 5 feet that you mentioned from? Because at the picture at least, it looks like it's all fairly deep, because there's a parking lot in between, and there's going to be vehicles parked, and they're all 6 to 8 feet long. And so, I'm just having a hard time visualizing today, where that 5 feet falls and which corner, etc.
Right, and the issue wasn't the setback from the street. It's well set back, but it's to provide some articulation in the building. So usually we see like L-shaped buildings where you get a lot of articulation in the building, so it's not such a long expanse. We're not asking for an L-shaped building, but a little bit of a setback just to provide a little bit of articulation from the front of the building.
And I guess with that clarification, am I understanding correctly that you're willing to do that if it means going forward without the one-story issue at hand?
I'm sorry, let me be clear on that. So we have a business model. We need a certain number of square feet within the building, and we're right at that number right now. So if you say, are you willing to reduce the square footage of your building and risk not making enough revenue to cover the cost of construction and all those things, I have to say that my president, my company owner, would not support making that decision. What I am saying is that I'm willing, if it's down to the little details, like if you could go back to the rendering, please. If we're talking about replacing these motif steel frames or changing the screen status instead, I think we could support that. If we're talking about eliminating medium color and replacing it with an earth tone, absolutely, I'll paint it whatever color you want. But I can tell you that we are required to have a certain amount of land dedicated to landscape, a certain amount of land dedicated to parking and circulation. We need a certain amount of building to make the project pencil out. And so we've made a lot of concessions. Just for example, if you look at a normal U-Haul building, we'd have a lot more windows than what we have here. We've reduced the number of windows in response to staff's comments because of the concerns that staff had about too many windows, seeing into the building, too many doors, lighting, whatever. I'm at a line in the sand I can't cross. I apologize for that.
So I guess as a follow-up, if you see 365, page 365 of our report, and it's got the, I guess a portion of the building, and I know that there's going to be parking in the back for some of the, and I understand your business model is your trucks, your advertising. I don't know if you said that, but
I did.
Yeah. So what percent of trucks? You said, I think you answered the chairman's question about maybe 14.
In the display parking exhibit, which you're looking at currently, I believe we identify 14 spaces for display parking. We have an additional 22 parking spaces dedicated just for customers, and then we have additional parking above and beyond. I apologize, I don't have that number handy, but we are considerably overparked. We had our engineer run the calculation of how many people visit the site on a daily basis and what are the peak demand times, and we found 22 parking spaces is what we would need for a Saturday or Friday, our peak day for moving customers who are coming in to buy boxes to check stuff in their storage unit or to pick up vehicles. We're significantly above that. I believe we have 28 parking spaces, not including the 14 display parking, which don't count towards the total number.
So, and just humor me, I know you might think this is a kind of a funny question, but the display, yeah, those will be usable, those will be ones that people use, maybe not immediately, because, you know, you'd have to take them out of the display and they'd have to come pick them up or whatnot, but are those, I guess maybe the fellow commissioners may have this concern is, you know, to advertise your business, we know you're probably not going to put like the rundown, dinged, you know, kind of trucks in the front, but help us understand what is, you know, it's advertising your display, but are they going to be the best trucks that are just kind of sitting there, or are they going to be out at once a week? You know, what kind of condition?
Those trucks, like all of our equipment, rotate constantly.
Okay.
In a perfect world, we would have no trucks on the site because they'd be all out rented. They'd come back in as soon as they came in. They'd be turned around and sent right back out off-site. And one thing I want to be clear about in case the staff report or our information that we provided in the reports isn't clear, we do not maintain equipment. We do not keep broken down or damaged equipment on site. When we have equipment that's in less than perfect condition, it leaves the site and goes to an improved maintenance facility. Somewhere else it comes back repaired. So the trucks that are on the site will be our best equipment in the best condition.
Okay.
So with that in mind, it's possible that your inventory of trucks and equipment could be diminished to some capacity, given that it needs to be repaired, refurbished, et cetera, so on and so forth. Is that correct?
I would say that that's possible, but the likelihood is very low. As opposed to, for example, a neighborhood dealer, which has a certain number of trucks that they're renting all the time, our network is backed up by the corporate. So corporate is sending trucks and repositioning trucks all over the country every day. If we're running low on trucks, they're going to try to send us more trucks.
Okay, so you then have some form of an, for lack of a better word, an inventory system that lets them know that your rentable equipment is starting to deplete, and therefore you need an infusion, and they automatically adjust to that? Is that what?
That is correct. Everything's computerized. The computer knows. We have, for one thing, you go online to rent or reserve equipment, and it tells you where to go to pick up the equipment, what's the closest place. Part of our model sustainability is that we would like people not to be driving across the city to pick up a vehicle. We'd like them to be able to have a vehicle available within 3 miles of their home. Mm-hmm. So this is our kind of our main center for Lake Forest, but there will still be neighborhood dealers in the area who will be having 3 or 5 trucks available for rent. One of the questions that Commissioner Brower asked me yesterday when we spoke was, will we be putting the neighborhood dealer that's just behind us, the mom and pop shop business? Absolutely not. In fact, we're going to probably be helping them to grow their business and relocate to someplace where they'll be able to do more business than they're currently doing.
Are you going to be servicing as a hub for those independent dealers? Is that what I'm hearing?
We would not be a hub for them. We're the storage location. The neighborhood dealers have equipment rentals.
Okay. What really would have been helpful, and I'm not sure it still isn't helpful, is on the renderings is to see what that landscaping looks like. You talked about a 2 and 14. You also talked about putting the vehicles out here. If we could kind of get that, because, you know, our little minds don't always think well, I'm going to say this. I don't know about these two, but I know what my little mind sometimes thinks, and it doesn't always the essence of what it is you're trying to convey to us. And, you know, when I first took a look at this, and I thought, holy cow, I'm going to turn on to Geronimo, and I drive by this almost once a day. I'm going to turn on Geronimo, and I'm going to see this large, stark building staring at me with trucks parked in front of it. And my little mind just couldn't get itself around that. I mean, I really wrestled with this for an extended period of time. You filled in some tonight, but having concepts like this that fill in those blanks helps tell the story and helps actually sell your project. So just kind of, you know, I'm not quite sure. I don't want to see an artist rendering of it before I say I'd like to see the project. I'm still wrestling with that. Any other questions? Okay, because we've got some other speakers, but we do appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vincent Burke.
Vincent Forrest. I live within stone's throw of this site. And interestingly, that the proposed site is within stone's throw of two other storage facilities. I'm very concerned about having 14 pieces of equipment out there on Geronimo that I'll be driving past every day, and morning and evening. There's no need for that. The mom and pop shop over on Olive doesn't need that, and they do plenty of business with rentals. People know where the rentals are. You can find them online. That's no problem. You don't need them advertised out on the street. The applicant spoke of employment opportunities. Yeah, definitely. For the 50s, 60s day laborers that gather out there along Cherry, Olive, and Orange. This has been a problem. It's been an ongoing problem for this city for a long, long time. And it's only going to get worse as the mom and pop shop relocates. All the day laborers back there are going to shoot on up to Geronimo, seeking employment opportunities up there. I'm not particularly opposed to this project. I just have severe reservations about it when it comes to, you know, appearance from the street, and with the hiring of day laborers and what that does, the appearance, the nuisance this is for Lake Forest. What is the city going to do about this? Are you going to make red zones, no parking zones around this entire facility, thus requiring any customers to go inside to this property instead of parking out on the street? Making that entire section of Geronimo from Orange to Cherry being a no stopping zone. Okay? Keeping that and enforcing that. We have cameras at a number of our intersections up here, especially over on at the Arbor. Okay, let's put some cameras over on Geronimo and Cherry or Orange, and enforce the no stopping zones in that area. Okay, can't do anything about the day laborers. They have their constitutional rights as future Democrat voters of America. But start dealing with the hiring of these folks. This is a very attractive area. These people don't gather here just by accident or coincidence. It's part of a criminal pipeline that starts in Mexico and funnels human traffic into America. This is one of their stops. This is enforced by people. I see my time is just about up here. It is. I'm getting the flashing red light. But they do have enforcers out there that control the day laborers and their profits. And I report to the city. Periodically, I'll go through, and I really want to wrap this up real quick, on the situation out there from time to time. I will be out there as this project is completed. And hopefully we won't have a reproduction of events, unfortunate events that occurred a couple years ago. All right? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, our next speaker is John, and I can't quite tell, you know who you are.
I think I know who I am.
Okay, starts with a B.
Yes.
If you can come up and state your name and your city of residence, and we appreciate you being here.
Sure. I'm John Behrens. I live in Mission Viejo. I own the buildings over on Village Drive, which is directly across from the proposed building. It is a very good-looking building. It's probably one of the best U-Hauls I've ever seen. However, I think some issues that will negatively affect my tenants over there and many people at other properties, such as noise. A couple issues on that. One, due to the increased traffic with trucks and whatever other machinery that they might have. Actually, even more so, the size of that building is going to act as a reflective wall for the traffic that's on Lake Forest. That was recently repaved. Things have gotten a lot quieter for all those apartments and homes along that section. But now we're going to have this other wall on the other side. I can't imagine what kind of volume level, especially during the evening, that the people are going to have. Also, being 3 stories, I know we're not in a Malibu Bluffs view area, but the folks on the second, especially second stories, can actually see all the way down to the Laguna Niguel, Dana Point area. I think this is going to be blocking that view, but I think the noise issue on that would be especially important. The previous gentleman mentioned some things that I didn't think of, and was more brought up a whole thing that I didn't think of that I think actually is pretty important as well. So that's my piece. Thank you.
We're being here tonight. Thank you.
Can I ask the applicant, the speaker, a question? I was just looking at a map as you were talking. Did you say your parcel, your properties were on Village Drive?
Village Drive, yeah.
And is it
the ones that are parallel to Geronimo at the end of the cul-de-sac?
Okay. Yep, I see there's like
a long common driveway.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 2 on each side?
Yes.
So those 4? Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Gracia? You could state your and city of residence, please.
My name is Gracia Weir, and I live in Lake Forest. And I'm going to bring the human aspect to this because I have lived there for 15 years and rented from John, and I have looked at this beautiful nursery. There was the Laguna Hills nursery and then the Living Green nursery. And when I go upstairs in my bedroom where I sleep, I can, the view is what they mentioned, I can see, and it's fairly quiet. It has been for 15 years. There was a lot of traffic on Geronimo, and now that the city fixed the road, it took the sound, in half, because you're upstairs and you get that reflection of, the sound, so you're sleeping with fans and, to block out any noise on that road. It's great now with the road. The building, it would just totally take all that away. The human part of it, all the people that live along there who stairs. And it's right there. I mean, that means they'd be able to see into my place upstairs where I'm at. And I just feel that you guys really need to think about that there are people that live along there and the noise factor of it, I mean, it's beautiful living there. I love my home. This sounds like to me that it's going to make me have to leave my home that I've, had there with my husband for 15 years. It's a beautiful view. We have a and so that's like the backyard. There's a wall there, but again, that's what we're going to be looking at, and I really appreciate if all of you would take that in consideration of all the people that do live there and have resided there for all these years. That's what I have to say.
Thank you for coming tonight. We have one more speaker card. I can't tell if it's Bernard Davis or
Davis.
Bertha? All right, great. Thank you. Again, I need you to there. Go ahead and state your name and your
Hi, my name is Bertha Davis, and I reside in Lake Forest. And I oppose this building for the fact that what John and Gresha had said, along the road where we live by Geronimo's a very, very busy road. And it's just noise factor all the time, day in, day night. So with this building going up, that would just increase to our noise as what we have now. And as everybody else said, it may be time for us to think about moving, you know, and we don't want to do that because we've been there for a long time. We like our landlord, we like where we live, and we just ask that, you know, we put this into consideration.
We appreciate you coming. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this tonight? Okay, seeing not.
I have one.
Oh, great. Come on, step on up.
Thank you. My name is Joseph Viscara. I'm president of American Real Estate Company. We're the applicant.
Okay, and
reside
you're
at
president? Okay.
Yes, of American Real Estate Company. Reside, my office, 2727 North Central Avenue, Phoenix, Arizona. I just would like to address a couple of the points that were brought up. Number one was the emotional statement about laborers. Well, day laborers are at Home Depot. They're pretty much any large location like that, and we don't control the day laborers. In fact, what we usually do is the police to get them out of there. You know, we don't get very much cooperation and response, and we don't really support them. We have our own program for our customers that we don't get anything out of. What we do, we have bonded moving companies or movers, like the two college guys or whatever those companies are, who are on our database, and we check them out, we ensure they're bonded, and that's what we recommend to our customers on our database, that this is the way you have to move, and the customer pays through us whatever the rate is per hour, and we give it to the moving company, and that way, that's our effort to try to reduce the day laborers. I spend a lot of time in U-Haul centers, and I don't see people stopping to get day laborers. That's one thing we definitely do not support. There was also a lot of response from apartment dwellers. Well, that's usually our top customer coming from apartments, because people are moving in and out of apartments, and if they don't rent within a close radius, then driving a long distance, putting carbon in the air, and you know, that for our sustainability initiative, you know, we like to put neighborhood U-Haul centers where people don't have to drive. That's becoming more and more important today. So, and that's the idea. Rather than someone 15, 20 miles to rent a U-Haul truck, we're in the area, we're here, and it's going to put less carbon in the air. And that's one of our key objectives. Those were my key. Oh, the other thing was on the single-story building. Well, you know, these buildings, we're going to invest about $10 million on this site. The buildings, every notch you put into it, every bend on the building, you're talking of, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the size of this building just meets, I mean, we've got just what we need as far as net rentable square footage of the storage to pay for this thing. So, and then putting a one-story building down below it, well, of course, economically, you know, that's not feasible. We've never done it. I put like 300 of these buildings up. What we can do is, I think Commissioner Hamilton suggested, is we can put the awning out front with beams in the front, which will give it the appearance of a one-story building, and we would do that. So I think I've concluded my statement. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Could I
Comment? Go ahead.
Ask him a question?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming back. If I guess I have two questions from some of the comments from other folks before you, some speakers. And would you support like a no standing kind of red curb along, if we're even able to do it, but would you support that kind of, one of the residents, I think, of our city mentioned something about having a red zone, you know, in front of the property, no standing. Is that something that you would support, or?
You mean in the street, or?
Right, on the street.
Oh, on the street, well, well, that's why we need the yard, because we don't like parking U-Haul trucks in the street. When I get 3 people in Phoenix, and all they do is take calls from saying, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, you're parking in the street, we have to call our local U-Haul companies. This is company. So we have to call our local guys or employees of U-Haul and tell them, hey, you're parking in the street, I get the call, get out of there. So, and that's the reason for the size of the lot and the parking, because, we don't park U-Haul trucks in the street. Then, that's a no to us. And there were also questions from the commissioners on the utilization of our fleet that I want to clarify. We're a one-way moving company. So at any one time, like in California, that has been historically a thing to us. More people move out of California than move in. So we have to take great care on how to keep a fleet in California so that the people, like the apartment dwellers moving locally, will have equipment here. Although we do make more money on our one-way. So at some days, there may not be any trucks on the lot. It's not a static fleet. We don't have static equipment. They're moving one way, and the way we manage, if a customer leaves Chicago, Illinois today, and they tell us if they're coming to Lake Forest, which one of the things on the agenda before us was Shay development. Well, we lack new housing because you're going to have people coming here from out of state or from other areas in Southern California, Northern California, and the customers moving to Lake Forest on the computer for their convenience, they're automatically routed to the most nearest location. So they would be routed, in this case, if they're within 3 miles of here, we tell them to return the equipment here. Again, that's less gas for the customer, it's more economical, and so the fleet is going to be just moving around. A lot of people move one way within California, so it's the same thing. They'll rent a truck, it'll leave. But someone else will rent a truck in, and it's all computerized, and this center knows that they're going to get a truck next Friday, and what time, and they're expecting it, and usually they log it in, and it's usually rented within a couple of hours. We don't like to see our equipment parked because we don't make money that way, and we don't pay for these structures. I think I had one other question I missed.
Yeah. So I have one more question, and I know this is. I just want your opinion, not trying to cram anything down your throat, but I'm kind of more amenable to allowing the multi-story corner that I think that you're kind of requesting. But what kind of soundproofing material would be potentially up against that wall that maybe some of the apartments right across Geronimo? Is there any kind of soundproofing material along that face there that
on the wall? Well, our buildings are climatized because customers want climatized self-storage for their household goods. We're primarily a household good. Our rooms are smaller, and we build 5x5, 5x10, 10x10, 10x15s, and maybe some 10x20s, and they correspond to the trucks. So, and then our hours, during the week we close at 7 o'clock, so you're not going to have nighttime noise at these locations. And then we're climatized, so we're insulated inside the buildings. I mean, if you're at the bottom of the building outside, you're not going to hear any noise of what's going on inside the building.
No, I don't think, if I understood their comment right, it's not the noise from your facility, it would be like the noise from the street that would bounce off your wall and then come back to them.
I'm not...
If I understood that right. Okay.
Our fleet...
I'm just thinking if there's some way, again, please don't take this as insulting, I'm just wondering, some of the noise that comes off of Geronimo from almost that vantage point where that picture would...
Right, okay, I understand.
And the sound hits off your wall and then comes back to there. Is there an economical solution to not soundproof, but just deflect
Well, I've never heard that as an issue, unless you build a building of cork to absorb sound. But, I've built 300 of these buildings, and I've never heard sound. Lighting is an issue, and we put the in, so that's not an irritant. But as far as sound bouncing out buildings, from that distance, I don't see where that's really an issue. With our hours of operation, you're not going to have truck noises of any kind out there. And we have a relatively new fleet. We turn that fleet over after so many miles, just like the rental cars. So we don't have chuggers out there making noises or anything. And that was another question on our maintenance. But again, if a truck is rented in Chicago, Illinois, they know the mileage to Lake Forest, and if it's a PM, which is the oil change and all of that.
Preventative maintenance.
So, yes. Okay, and what it is scheduled, then what we do is schedule it into a repair facility once it reaches here. So when it gets here, it'll go to the nearest repair maintenance facility, which we have 200 around the country. And the only thing we do here is make sure that the equipment is ready to rent, safe for the customer, and that's it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
May I jump in as the plan?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So, in all reality, what we try to do is by placing the building down slightly below grade so that we've reduced that. If you notice, this picture doesn't really show it, but for those of you who drive by there all the time, you know that site is, the road is much higher than the building pad where the building will be situated. And at the same time, we're also planting trees, shrubs to try to do everything we can to break up that sound. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of, we can't put styrofoam or sound buffering walls between the street and the apartments across the street. It's prohibitively expensive, and I apologize to our neighbors. We believe that we'll be a good neighbor and be quiet. There's not really much we can do about the traffic noise. That's not imposed on the neighbors by us, and we don't believe that we're affecting that. Last thing I do want to point out, it's an industrial subdivision. It is allowed to have much more intense industrial uses than what we're proposing. Could be a sawmill. I'm not saying that's what we want to do, but I'm asking this commission at this time, please accept our proposal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have one more request to speak. Jim Gardner.
Good evening, Commissioners, Chairman, staff. I like U-Haul. I've used U-Haul many times, and I think they're trying to do a good thing here, and it sounds like they're trying to make concessions. Also, that nursery area, it's had a hard time surviving, is an area sitting there doing nothing. So on the positive side. On the other hand, we were here, I believe, at the last meeting, or if not, there was the meeting before that. And I believe Commissioner Verplank made the comment, it's a good project, but not here, about a different kind of a project. And that's kind of what I look at when I see that. It looks ugly to me. And that's aesthetics. So I really wasn't planning to comment at all tonight, because that's aesthetics. So what do we care about my, I think it's ugly, they think it's pretty. But apparently some other people are worried about the aesthetics too. And then I look at that and I try to imagine what that's going to look like with 14 or 20 trucks in front of it. And you know, that area is a little bit sketchy now anyway. It's not blighted, it's not in trouble, but it's kind of a sketchy area anyway. And what is that going to look like? So I think at the least it would be good to see a rendering. You know, the 214 or 216, whatever they say, put an artist, put that in there, put in the 14 or 20 trucks sitting there, so you could actually see maybe it's not going to look so bad. But I share with Chairman Verplank now, in my mind, it looks ugly. I have an open mind. You know, if I saw a drawing, it might look okay, it might not look so bad. Certainly a spot, something needs to be done. It's certainly a good company. I wish we could accommodate them. I wish you could accommodate them in some manner, but not putting anything there. So if I felt, or if you felt, that it wasn't really so ugly and that the landscaping covered it and the 14 or 20 trucks sitting there didn't make it look terrible, if that were all true, I think it's a great plan to go ahead with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, one last call for any other speakers. Okay, well, we need to make sure you get a speaker's card filled out before you leave tonight.
My name is Sean Kelter. I'm Newport Beach, California. I'm the property owner. And I've worked closely with Jennifer over the last 6 years on this project. What I wanted to address is some of the comments that the people made earlier. And it's always told that public speaking is the scariest thing people do. I think change is also one of the scary things that people get. So, Commissioner Hamilton, you asked about noise. I think one of the things that U-Haul brings that's different than the development guidelines would allow, and what I would propose if I'm going to end up back with my property and end up developing it, I would propose more traditional industrial that you have throughout the city, which would be buildings that would be much closer to the street. In fact, the setback is 20 feet. This building that they're proposing is 90 feet from the street. So whatever we do otherwise, whether we were to build office buildings, a retail center, or other industrial buildings, they are going to be adjacent to that street, looking for that retail identity or site coverage. So noise abatement, you can't do much more than with distance. So with some landscaping and the articulation of the building, but more importantly, the setback. In addition to that, if I were to build an alternative building, like one of the warehouses that you have in the city, that building would be a 30-foot warehouse, which is consistent with normal construction and development for industrial properties, which is a 35-foot tall building, consistent with the zoning ordinance. So the people that have this concern, I understand that concern, but they don't know what the alternative is. And I believe that the alternative allowed by zoning could be much more intrusive than fears what U-Haul is planning today. Thank you.
We appreciate you coming. Please don't forget to fill out a speaker's card.
And I have another question. I know I'm asking lots of questions for this speaker here.
Okay.
This maybe.
Sir, we have a question for you.
If we were to request another rendering to see kind of how it looks, how do you feel about that?
Well, I'm not the person that's promoting the action here tonight, so I'm not the one that's doing that. I'm the property owner. I'm the person that's selling the property to U-Haul.
Okay.
How I feel about that, that cost me $10,000 for 2 weeks to wait. So I'm not happy about it, but that would be up to them.
Maybe, okay, I thought maybe you were the applicant too, but...
No, I am not the applicant.
Okay, maybe the applicant, how would you feel about providing a rendering, drawing to help with the landscaping and... It's just, I mean, all of us kind of said that we're having a hard time visualizing it, and it's...
If I may, Commissioner Hamilton, sure. I'd like to tell you that in a perfect world, we would present a rendering all the trucks, and you would not. You'd have other things that you say, well, let's change that too. What our goal was to provide the building. The architecture of the building is what we're talking about here tonight. And so my gut action is, can we do another rendering? We could. Will it solve the problem? I'm not sure. The bigger question for us is we have a seller who we want to close. If approved tonight, we close tomorrow. If we don't close, we have to go back and negotiate, and he may say, forget it, we're done, because he doesn't want to wait any longer. So my request would be, what about if you approve and ask us to work with staff on the issue of a rendering, so that we can have closure and a sense of commitment would that resolve your questions and issues?
You know, I kind of think that that there, in my mind, there might be some solution. We'll probably bring it up, at least in my mind. So, no, thank you. We'll figure something out.
Okay, we've got one additional speaker, Richard Farino.
I'm Richard Farino, Farino Construction, obviously, and I have 2 pieces of property in there, and I'm not for or against it, but I do have a question that when people return the U-Hauls after hours, are they going to have a chain across the driveway, or are they going to be able to put them in the lot? And then if it does fill up, where do they put them? Because the street parking there gets pretty bad. And that's all my question. I don't know if someone's out there, an attendant there all night, or is it closed and they put a chain up, there's going to be a problem.
Legitimate. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Do you want to readdress this?
Yes, sir. I can answer that question.
Well, we'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, we have local rentals for the...
Need you to restate your name.
Carlos Fiscara, Merca Real Estate Company, Phoenix, Arizona. We have customers who rent local trucks and even one-way drop-offs, and we have instructions in the contract that you drive into the lot, you park inside the parking lot, and then we have a key drop-off point in the showroom, by the showroom, where customers drop the key in, and then they're in the lot. And again, that's the reason for requiring this type lot, because where we have smaller locations, like some of our dealers in the area, maybe a gas station, customers may drop that in the street and just leave the truck in the street. The next day I get cited. And that's one other thing I'd like to address is one U-Haul, which is controlled by the city, has the approved parking and appearance and landscaping, will replace 10 to 15 non-company owned dealerships. So that's like your service station and things like that have the trucks, but there's no landscaping, there's nothing, no compliance with code or anything. So we feel, this makes a better neighbor and puts us in better corporate appearance than, the alternative.
Okay, can you show us where that drop point is?
Okay. The showroom would be in the lower left corner.
Yeah, okay. Jennifer, is there another something that takes us back? I don't know if 360, yeah, okay.
Go to your right. Yes, that's the showroom, and that should be about 200 square feet. And within the showroom, what we have is inside.
Yeah, thank you.
Excuse me. Inside, we have the counters for customers, the handicap counters. Then we also have model rooms for the customers to go in, open the doors, and they don't have to go away, walk into the building to see an empty room. So our customers don't know what they really need. So they open the doors and say, yeah, my 2-bedroom apartment will fit in there. And this 10 by 10. I have this much furniture. Okay, that's the inside. Now on the outside, there's a key drop-off, which is about like this. I think banks have, after hours deposit. It's similar to that. And there's a sign, and it says, drop your key in here. And that's also in the customer instructions in the contract. So they drive into the lot, park, and then they'll drop off the key.
Okay, where are they driving into the lot, please?
Right at that point.
Okay, so there's not going to be any fence or gate or anything across there. They're just going to have...
Oh, no, we have to leave our lots open for customers returning equipment.
Okay, this is after hours again.
Yes. Well, after hours or noon hours, we can't lock our,
I
close it
understand
off.
during hours, but after hours, the point was brought up, after hours, how are you going to drop off and how are they going to receive?
Yes. No, we won't put a chain or gates or anything like that. We're not like the auto dealers. They have cars to protect. If somebody steals our truck, we'll get it back sometime.
So those vehicles are just going to then be in front of facing Geronimo. Do I understand that correctly?
Well, when they drive in the lot, there's a lot of times there are people driving one way who have never been here before, so they'll just park wherever it's convenient, usually by the showroom, and that's why we like the elevated part, and we give more signage on the showroom for directions for customers, and they'll park somewhere convenient to them near there, and then they'll see the the key drop off, we have a little lighting in there, and they'll drop the key in, and if whoever's picking them up can go get them and they'll leave.
Okay, so it could be either in the front or on the side of the building then?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, on the same topic, and this may be a question for Robin, I'm not sure, but when I asked Robin on the phone what exactly the equipment shunting area on the map was, his explanation to me is that that's actually a preferred drop-off location, so I would assume, based on that, and I'm asking for clarification, that if I was to rent in Chicago, in Lake Forest, outside of Chicago, and I'm coming to Lake Forest here for an improvement in quality of life, I'm going to see in my instructions when you get there, pull into the equipment shunting, and there'll be some sort of signage in the equipment shunting that says park your vehicle here?
Yes, exactly. There's signs in there and on the ground there's markings that say return equipment here, and they follow the signs.
So on the map section that borders the existing
yes, that's
baseball
correct.
academy, is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And one more question. Remind me, you had your 10 window? 212? What was it?
The window, I'm sorry. Robin Benning for Americo from Phoenix, Arizona. It's 2 to 14, so the shrubs are up 2 feet off the ground, and remember the parking's down in a hole anyway, and then the trees are trimmed up to 14 feet so that you can see through for safety and security.
And then how much further do they go up above 14?
Well, we would generally like our trees to grow to 30 or 35 feet, which would be deciduous tree in California in the beautiful weather conditions that you have here. I would estimate in about 2 weeks they should get that big.
And what is I know the building height will be a little bit different because it's lower.
Yes, thank you. If you could go to the 2 elevations that are on the 1 page, please.
I'm just putting all this together right now.
As I discussed in the presentation, the building is partially recessed at this end of the building, and it comes out at grade at this end. But remember that the building height is measured according to the zoning ordinance 5 feet away from the edge of the building. However, and this is the elevation that faces Geronimo Road. I'm sorry, the color rendering doesn't really do it justice. It looks very yellow. But the street is even higher. The street is approximately 3 feet higher than the face of the building at this location. So if we had a section cut through, the street would be about where my red dot is. So the building itself is only sticking up about 22 feet above the pavement at that location. And down here in front of Geronimo, well, the road does slope down, and so that at this point we're actually about 6 to 8 inches above the finished street, because by that time the hill's going away, and of course the building can't sit at an angle it has to be.
So would it be fair to say that someone living across the street in an apartment would not really be able to see your building because of the height of the trees? You might be able to see something lower than 14 feet, but above that 214 window, you have a difficult time seeing your building.
As we stood out there on drove today, and when I've been here previously, we thought that our building is probably at about, the top of our building is probably very close to the same height as the top of the lumber racks and the top of the Ganal lumber building that's directly behind us, so it's in proportion to that same thing. It is taller than the liquor store or the baseball academy comparatively, but we're allowed to be, and we've explained to staff, and staff concurs, that our building is within the allowable height limitation. The height limitation isn't really the issue. The issue is that one statement that says that the office component or showroom component should be a 1-story. So.
But I mean, just saying, just again, someone from living across the street should not be able to see your building outside of the 214 window if there was some kind of,
my belief is that between the trucks and the landscaping, they shouldn't see much. And most of the houses, I don't know about the apartments, but most of the houses on the northeast side of Geronimo at that location have lush landscaping in their backyard to screen the traffic from being able to see their homes. So I'm not sure that most of those homes can even see Geronimo.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other speakers? You've already had your opportunity to speak. That's correct, but we thank you for it. All right, any other speakers? Okay, then we'll bring it back up here. Who wants to take a
I'll start. Coming in, I definitely had a harder time kind of visualizing, but I think the lack of the rendering of the landscaping that did impact us, but I feel like I've addressed my concerns, and I think I'm going to support this project. So with a few conditions, and I think as the applicant stated that they're okay with everything but the one story. I'm okay with the building as it the stories, in that corner. So I'm okay with it being that tall. But I definitely want to see. I think it's important that the neighbors. Let me say it this way. I think it would be nice to not impact the neighbors, and so like you said in your comments, the applicant stated in their comments, there could be another bland-looking warehouse that goes in that could, very negatively impact the neighbors. And so, I'm not sure if I want to make it a requirement, but I think it would be very neighborly of you to put your trees at a mature level coming in to address the issues that the neighbors state. And I think that 90-foot setback is definitely going to deflect noise. I think the landscaping, if you make that very lush up front, I'm starting to visualize it based on all the conversations we've had and all the discussion we've had. I think that just is a very neighborly thing to do, and so I support the project. Not with those conditions, but with your understanding, and I think you're nodding, that you're going to make this thing as lush as can be to not impact the neighbors. Not as a requirement, but just as a welcome to the city. But just if it passes, I'm only one of 3 votes here. But if you are to come with those stipulations that you agree with staff, except for the corner, I think what you said, and I think everyone understands what I'm saying, and just make that thing lush. We want you to be able to have your vehicles. That's part of your advertising, but at least this is my opinion here. So.
I was hoping to defer. I was very sad.
Can I add one more thing? Sorry, I will also say the red, like you said on the street, you're okay with the red. No parking. I mean, that's no standing. Making that blatantly obvious to everyone that and you want that too. So I think that was another. If we can, I don't know if we can paint the street red there, or put no standing, or I don't know, whatever. No stopping.
No stopping.
Okay. I guess we'll start on where Commissioner Hamilton off. On the issue of the day laborers, that was probably my second biggest initial struggle. I'll get to the biggest one. It's the bigger, say the best for last, but as one of our residents, I think rather correctly and rather passionately pointed out, it is an issue, it's an ongoing issue, and to a certain degree, our hands are tied as to what we can and can't do about it. And I never really thought about there is definitely some credence to his claim as to enforcers within that realm of those who are on that corner. And I say that because where the Faux Sapa went in, the restaurateur side of when that was vacant, considered putting a restaurant in there myself. Decided against it for a variety of reasons, but the day laborers was a key component of that. And the seller, who was moving out and trying to encourage me to move in, said it's okay because as soon as there's a business here, they'll stop, they'll move to the side, don't worry. That has actually happened. I've seen it happen. Now that there's a restaurant in that corner, they're pushed back. They're hanging out on the edge of the parking lot instead of in front of the empty space. And so that is both a pro and a con to this argument. I think it helps U-Haul's position to have an active tenant on that corner to continue to say, you know, look, either move your people away or we're going to continue to make life miserable for you by calling the police. We may only get a 10% response, but we're going to do what we can. We're going to make life hard. You know, it's something. You know, an active tenant is better than a vacant lot in almost all rationales of my world. And U-Haul has a track record of success and a track record of being, you know, a good corporate citizen in the communities that they operate. And so I don't have that. Moving into what I see as my biggest issue, and I believe it has been addressed satisfactorily, but that is, you know, the height of the building. My initial thought, I opened the packet last week when it came, and I looked and I said, okay, you know, I had heard kind of the rumblings that U-Haul was the likely tenant and self-storage was the likely intended use, but I hadn't seen it yet. And I opened it up and I thought, man, that's a big building. And I pictured, you know, I drive past there all the time, and I pictured the one-story buildings on either side, and my first thought was, is it going to just tower over them? Because even as a solid property rights guy, as a guy who believes that as long as we do it in a classy way that benefits the overall good of the community, we're going to let people do what they do with their property, I couldn't get my brain around, you know, saying, hey, let's just tower over everybody. As I started looking at the renderings and listening to the discussions tonight, the combination of all of that, you know, I could tell looking at the drawings that it's set back a ways, and I know the hill. I know it's a steep, you know, downgrade when you make that turn, and so, you know, I could emotionally get around that a little bit, but I still kept thinking, man, it's a three-story building. How do you get past that? And then I realized what that 90-foot setback really means is that it's not any taller. You know, roof line. I mean, height to the ground, sure, but roof line from the street, which is what we really care about, or at least I do. If I'm driving down the street or I'm walking down the sidewalk, I'm not going to feel like there's a building towering over me or imposed upon the buildings on either side, because Ganal behind it is actually slightly taller if I'm reading the drawings right. And the buildings to either side are offset from it. They're not right next to it for one thing, and they're on higher elevations for another. And so as I started to build that picture for myself, I realized you know, my only major concern was, man, is this thing going to dominate the landscape? And I no longer feel that it will. I do think it'll blend. It's going to be big, and I would like to see the majority of the staff recommendations as far as articulation and those things. But outside of that, I'm absolutely on board with it. You know, the guidelines for that industrial, for development in that industrial center, I think are intentionally vague so that we have room to make decisions. You know, the question of the one-story entryway, I mean, I understand staff's position, and they've got to draw a line in the sand and do their jobs. We don't have that same line to deal with necessarily, and so, you know, I see a statement that says it has to be in human scale, and I think to myself, what the hell does that mean? It's a very vague term. it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a one-story entryway. And so I'm going to stop there, but based on what I've seen, my fears have been addressed, and I think in the overall grand scheme of both the community, I mean, that area, since I moved to Lake Forest in 2001, has been the one area that I kept saying, why can't we do anything about this? Why can't we do anything about this? It's light industrial, but it's surrounded by homes in our major thoroughfare. You know, who thought that up? Then I realized, okay, the county did, and they didn't care. But it's going to take time to fix it, and I think this is a bold move in the right direction. You know, you got to start from the perimeters, what people can see, and if we clean up the perimeters, you know, some of that stuff that's behind there that we don't necessarily see, you know, hey, we don't see it. Out of sight, out of mind to a certain extent. You know, certainly it's got to be in compliance with codes and et cetera, but it doesn't give that feel of, I was driving down El Toro in the middle of Lake Forest, and now where am I? And that's how it's been for me for the last 13 years almost. You get a half-mile stretch where you just think, why is this here in this spot? And so I think this is, I'm grateful to see somebody willing to invest the money and the time to help move this area forward.
And you know what? I just want to add one more thing. I think this is a great opportunity if it does get passed again. I'm just one vote, but for the applicant to build a bridge to, and I think it was John. Were you the one who was across the street? I think maybe you. I'd definitely recommend maybe you two build a bridge tonight and exchange information, and talk to John and say, hey, you know what? This is what we're thinking. John can say, hey, you know what? We're all neighbors here. This is the city of Lake Forest, and we have a legacy of having a great community, and I'm sure, I think this, I would hope that the other person who spoke, who I can't get your name off the top of my head here, it was a unique name to pronounce. Yes, we don't want you to move, so I think, and neither do you. So I think, if somehow you can make this really lush, I mean, Lake Forest, I mean, that's what, we're the city of trees, and so trees, are an important part of our city. And you're kind of hearing this legacy and hearing these things, and so trees, we love trees, and I'm sure they would love trees, to be able to look out and see some beautiful trees masking, some of the elements that we've talked about tonight. So I'd really encourage you to build a bridge with John, and I've forgotten your name already. Gresha. Thank you, Gresha. Pretty name. So that was just my recommendation if it passes tonight. So so that we can keep everyone happy.
Okay. Well, thank you. Some of what my fellow commissioners have said, I concur with in terms of, when I first looked at this, I thought the magnitude of this was just absolutely overwhelming. And there's been a lot of good constructive dialogue. I go back to our design guidelines for that area, and I look at this project, and right from the get-go, the first three it doesn't comply with. It should reflect the design characteristics of the surrounding area. Actually, it does comply in terms of the setback treatment, so we're okay with that. But the general transition between existing and new buildings, I'm still trying to deal with. There are different wall variations and pop-outs. I think, maybe we can get a little more articulation on that. We need to get something to soften the blow of that. Because it doesn't match anything in the consistency with the architectural style that's in the area now. So it is bold, and I'm not afraid of bold, but this is just almost overwhelming. And as I said before, what really would have helped, there was a couple of comments made about the expediency to get this thing done tonight, and our job isn't to be expedient for the applicant's sake, per se, but it's not to delay you either. And we could have been helped out a lot with two things. And I already said it, if we'd have had a graphic that showed what it's going to look like when there's trucks and so forth out here, and that graphic could have been expanded to have also included the landscape that's proposed to it, so we could see it. I think that would help both us, and it would help the audience to see what it is we're really looking at doing. So I'm not admonishing you. I'm just saying, in future, you might want to consider when you go before other planning commissions, and it would have been very helpful for us tonight in terms of being able to put that in front of us so that we can see and we can make a decision. As my fellow commissioners have said, we've been up here, we've been listening to you tonight, we've let you help us get a little bit more of a grasp on what we're trying to accomplish here. Because when I look at this, the violations of our own design guidelines in the area just simply outweigh it. And we need something that's more substantial. We talked about whether or not we should ask you for a rendering. I'm still not sure we shouldn't, but if we put some other restrictions in there, I think we need to do that. And one of the things, if we're going to put something together, I'd like to see us restrict so that, and Mr. Farino talked about it, if we're going to drop off vehicles and there's nobody on site to receive those vehicles, they can't be put on the streets. So, we're gonna, to do this, I think we're going to have to condition that U-Haul trucks get left on the street, there's a problem. Going to be a serious violation. And I know you guys don't want your trucks on the street, because if you put them on the street, they're more apt to get vandalized anyway. And the last thing that any of you need is to have your trucks, your equipment damaged. That's already bad enough sometimes when you get it back. I think we've all been in the U-Haul line saying, yeah, let's move. I personally have driven one from Colorado back. I know what it's like to have one of those trucks and have a fun trip with it. So I think I've said everything I wanted to say. I have too, like my fellow commissioners, I've learned a lot here tonight. I'm not completely comfortable with it. I am comfortable more with it than I was at the beginning. The fact that it is set back. I still have some questions, and Commissioner Hamilton has tried to address that. The residences around it, if they're looking out, or if, worst case, people on the second and third floors are looking in to those residences from the windows. That's a consideration. That's something that I think we have to be very cognizant of. Yes, we do have enough of a distance, but just by the same token, those windows are going to face across the street where the residences are. And that's an issue that I think we need to be cognizant of. More comments?
Are there any more comments? Because otherwise I'm going to attempt a motion.
If you want to make a motion, go for it.
All right. Oh, sorry.
That's why I asked for more comments.
Yeah, it took me a second. So, I think the plan of the commission is, a lot of times, is to have consensus. So, would you feel comfortable with certain, can we, do we have your vote on some certain things were to, what's your feelings?
I could support this with what I've already talked about, the parking restrictions. I think we've got to do that, and I'm not sure what we can do about the visual second, third story window thing. I don't know if there's something that can be done about that. I just have that concern that if there's people inside that facility that can look across the street and look into potentially second story windows of residences, I have a little problem with that.
Now, on that issue, I'm picturing, if we're talking about trees that are at least, I'm guessing, 18 feet tall. If they're being trimmed at the 14-foot level, there's got to be something above it to support the growth below. And so, if we're looking at the rooftop, at least on a significant portion of the building, being approximately 22, I think you said, feet above street level, but there's an 18 to 30 foot tree between that and the other, and then 90 feet then a tree, then a 4-lane road with additional setbacks on the other side. I understand, anyway, the concern, but I would respectfully submit that I don't see the feasibility of it actually being an issue.
Okay. Well, one of the things we might want to entertain here, they have on their landscape plan, they've only got 4 of those large trees across that whole Geronimo frontage, and I think we might want to look at increasing the number of those trees to make it more filled in. I think that would certainly work to satisfy not just that, but also soften that street, and the building from the street as well as across the street. So I think we might need to add 2 or 3 more trees at least. So we're going to work with staff to make that into so that it's fairly well screened.
We could perhaps do it at a certain interval every 20 feet. Right now the trees are separated about 35 to 65 feet depending on the area. And they're proposed, there are a few mature trees that are located there now. The new ones are proposed to be at a 24-inch box. There is also the option of a 36-inch box, which would start it a little bigger as an option.
Okay. So incorporate that into a resolution that staff will work with the applicant to redefine that landscape plan so that takes care of that. And again, restricting on parking and that. And I think we can work with this along with the other items, excluding item 3A.
Okay. So I was actually, I'll just put it out there. I was looking at 3A, C, and D. I think, based on my understanding of what the applicant was willing to work with and what ties their hands as far as viability, I think we can accomplish everything we've talked about using the rest of those, plus maybe replacing A, C, and D with off-street parking, additional landscaping, and leaving the enforcement of that to staff approval.
Okay, so did I understand you excluding A, C, and D? Is that the 3 that you were talking about?
Right. If I'm reading them correctly, C and D were the ones that would require cutting into the square footage of the building, and he was pretty adamant that they couldn't do that economically. And so to say we approve your project, but only if you agree to die financially, doesn't do anybody any good.
Yeah, I thought the applicant said 3A was the only issue they had.
I thought so too.
Maybe I missed that.
Okay, so we understand that A is the item that you are A, C, and D. You did articulate those 3 then.
Oh yeah, because D. Okay, so D was the lower roof line. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I can live with that.
Okay, in that case, I'm going to go ahead and attempt to craft this.
And again, I'm just before just one more thing. I don't want to put it in the condition, but just really, I think reach out to Mr. John. I don't have your last name, John. Sorry. And it's not a condition, but if you want to invite him to on your own. To come and work with staff and I just think that's a neighborly thing to do. So for everyone's benefit, we probably want to get going here, but I want to just stress that one more time.
Okay, so I'm going to move that we approve use permit 11-12-2955 for the new U-Haul buildings with equipment and truck rental at 25290 Geronimo Road, as drafted, with the removal of sections 3A, 3C, and 3D from the conditions of approval, but with the addition of conditions of approval that require off-street parking and allow the staff to figure out the exact wording on that so that it has some teeth, that we maintain an enforcement capability basically on the off-street parking ban for vehicle drop-offs, and with the additional language requesting, or requiring rather, that the applicant continue to work with have to enhance the number of large trees. I think it actually would help to go to the 36-inch box. I think that's a good suggestion, so I'll include that in that language, please. And then also include closing public hearing.
Okay, the landscape would be along the Geronimo side.
And I think also the intent, I think I was seeing nods earlier, was mature trees at decent heights, so it doesn't have to, grow into that stage. Is that okay?
Yeah, the 36-inch box is one of the biggest sizes you can start a tree at. It probably won't start at the 18 feet, but it's one of the biggest sizes you can start at.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, I was wondering what was going to... Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I guess not. Well, we'll work with you. Thanks.
Welcome to the city.
All right. That takes care of all the items on the agenda tonight.
Are we doing comments?
We're going to do comments.
Okay.
Right. Let's go ahead and start with director comments.
Just a short comment this evening. Tomorrow on the city's website, we will have a link to the Portola Center Supplemental EIR. It's going to start the 45-day review period, and we'll also send you a link via computer. We'll let you know, so you can download that. You can view it online, and we're also noticing the public in every way possible about that as well.
Okay. Our esteemed city attorney tonight.
I have no comments tonight.
Is that anything new? Let's start down with Commissioner Brower.
Well, actually, I'm glad you started with me, because before Mr. Henderson leaves, Martin, I'm interrupting him to do his job. Martin, can I, before you leave, I just want to take a moment on the record to officially congratulate you on your recent award for the Online Journalist of the Year. And since you're here, I wanted to take a moment to say congratulations. And then on the record, I'm going to say happy anniversary to my wife. It's 14 years today, and she still puts up with me.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure, I thought with Tim Hughes, Chairman Tim Hughes not being here, I couldn't help but in item number 3, it is a capital improvement project list, right? Okay. If you look at the sheet, you'll know what I'm talking about. So that was in honor of Chairman Tim Hughes. It's on page 2 of the agenda. General Plan Conformance Determination Capital Improvement Project List. So that was Tim Hughes speaking through me. And also along those, I wanted to especially say that the water components, the water efficiency, allowing some water efficiency plants and medians, I thought was a very good. It was especially capital in its in my comments, and I thought a great meeting tonight, and hopefully we can work together as a city and neighborly and all those. And, yes, congratulations to the patch reporter.
Okay, I'll keep my comments short and brief. We have a national holiday coming up next week, so I'd like to wish you all a happy 4th of July, a safe one. Enjoy, and with that, we'll adjourn to our next regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting of July the 11th.
Could you, excuse me, could you adjourn to 4 o'clock? We're starting an early special meeting on July 11th.
Thank you. I will retract that, and we will adjourn to 4 o'clock at the special meeting on July the 11th. And don't be late.